Hello, and welcome to the Armenian American Medical Society CME program. My name is Arsinee Kalfayan, and my topic is From Shortages to Solutions, Leveraging Outsourcing Facilities for Tailored Patient Care. So this slide represents disclosures for the CME committee members. You may refer to this slide for more information about me. So since I am a CME committee member and recently a consultant to a 503B outsourcing facility, startup company that is not operational yet, we need to mitigate any bias or potential conflict of interest issues. So my presentation was independently peer-reviewed by the CME committee. So by the end of this session, you'll be able to describe the causes and consequences of shortages, explain the role and regulation of 503B outsourcing facilities in filling the gaps of shortages, and identify safe practices when using compounded medications. Now that we've outlined what we aim to learn today, let's start by framing the problem itself. Drug shortages are especially severe for sterile injectables and emergency use medications. These shortages delay treatment and increase risks of medication errors, especially when providers must substitute less familiar or suboptimal options. Clinicians often face dilemmas when choosing who receives the scarce medication. Manufacturers, to fully grasp the problem, we need to understand what's driving these shortages. Multiple factors contribute to drug shortages, and some are preventable, others are systemic. These include manufacturing and quality issues, supply chain disruptions and raw material scarcity, regulatory actions, recalls, market consolidation, and sudden increases in demand, such as during pandemics. Of course, drug shortage causes don't exist in isolation. They ripple down to the bedside, directly affecting hospitals, physicians, pharmacies, and patient care and patients. Let's take a closer look at the impact on the healthcare delivery. Pharmacies become overloaded, often spending a lot of time sourcing alternative medications or reformulating. A 2025 Vizian survey shows that 50% of healthcare providers report significant operational disruption, especially due to shortages of basic injectables. Drug shortages cost hospitals $900 million annually in labor expenses alone. If the cost of new expensive alternatives, direct purchase outside of the hospital's traditional channels, medication errors, and canceled or delayed medical procedures are added, the actual cost far exceeds that of the 900 million figure of additional labor. So 503B outsourcing facilities have helped mitigate these impacts by reducing waste and ensuring access to essential sterile products. So to understand why drug shortages effects are so severe, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture, how the drug supply chain works and where vulnerabilities can emerge. Sourcing of raw materials, such as chemical precursors, excipients, and active pharmaceutical ingredient precursors, often come from China, India, other Asian countries. Active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacturing occurs predominantly in India, China, and to a lesser extent in Italy and the US. Finished pharmaceutical products manufacturing occurs in Europe, India, and the US. We manufacture only 35% of generic drugs and most brand name drugs and biologics. Packaging and labeling may occur in the same country as the finished pharmaceutical product manufacturing or in regional hubs like in the US or Europe. Distribution to wholesalers, pharmacies, and healthcare institutions often involve multinational logistic networks. Dispensing to patients and eventual disposal take place in local pharmacies and hospitals. As you can see, the supply chain is highly globalized and fragmented, with frequent cross-border movement of intermediates and finished products. For example, a generic drug may have its API produced in India, formulated in Europe, packaged in the US, and distributed globally. So tariffs, also known as the most beautiful word in the English language, if imposed, will unfortunately raise costs, prompt manufacturers to reconfigure sourcing, and increase fragility and shortage risk, especially for generics with thin margins and concentrated API supply. Broader tariffs or on major suppliers, like in China, India, and EU, could amplify disruptions and downstream prices. Empirical and modeling work predicts cost pass-through and potential reductions in supply reliability under tariff regimens. So with the supply chain under stress, healthcare needs rapid and safe solutions. This is where 503B outsourcing facilities come in. Let's explore what they are and how they fit into this picture. 503B outsourcing facilities were established under the Drug Quality and Security Act, also known as DQSA of 2013. The 2012 fungal meningitis outbreak linked to contaminated steroid injections from the New England Compounding Center caused over 100 deaths and hundreds of infections. This led to the DQSA in 2013 to improve regulation and oversight of compounding pharmacies. These 503B facilities are registered with the FDA and must comply with the current good manufacturing practices, also known as CGMP, the same standards that are required for pharmaceutical manufacturers. Unlike the traditional 503A compounding pharmacies that prepare personalized, low-volume medications tailored to unique patient needs, 503Bs can compound medications in bulk and without individual patient prescriptions. making them ideal during drug shortages. The bulk compounding capability allows them to quickly fill critical supply chain gaps in hospitals and clinics, especially where in-house sterile compounding is not feasible. Their role is essential in scaling sterile compounding during national shortages. So defining what 503B facilities only takes us part of the way. To really understand their role, we should compare them directly with the traditional 503A pharmacies. I want to emphasize that in general, 503Bs are held to a higher standards in regards to engineering controls, environmental monitoring, process validation, CGMP standards, and validated as aseptic processes. The key differences that are really important to physicians are 503A pharmacies are overseen by state boards of pharmacy and must comply with USP 797 standards. In contrast, 503B outsourcing facilities are registered with the FDA and are required to meet current CGMP practices, also known again as the good manufacturing practices, similar to drug manufacturers. In California, outsourcing facilities are also governed by the boards of pharmacy, by the California Board of Pharmacy. These regulatory distinctions have a major impact on quality expectations and operational requirements. 503B facilities can only compound medications upon the receipt of a patient-specific prescriptions. Did I say 503B? I meant 503A. They required the patient-specific prescription. 503As are also designed to serve individual patients with customized needs. Meanwhile, 503Bs do not require patient-specific prescription and are allowed to compound medications in bulk for your office use and hospital systems. 503Bs frequently use automated compounding devices, barcode scanning, and workflow software to increase accuracy and throughput. Common drugs produced by As, typically patient-specific sterile or non-sterile preps, including hormone therapies and pediatric or geriatric formulations. Bs compound high-volume sterile injectables, such as epinephrine, vasopressin, and methadone, often for use in acute care settings. Bulk injectable wellness functional meds are also compounded in 503B facilities. The patient population served in As cater to individual patients, often these who with allergies, rare conditions, or pediatric geriatric needs, whereas Bs serve hospitalized, surgical, and critically ill patients, especially when there are drug shortages and require rapid, large-scale compounding. Functional medicine and wellness clinic customers also use injectable products that are compounded in 503B facilities. Compliance challenges: each facility type faces different challenges. Bs must ensure sterility assurance, validated processes, data integrity, and navigate the regulatory uncertainties that are often changing particularly regarding the FDA bulk drug substance list, also referred to as bulks list. For example, if we want to compound glutathione, which is not FDA approved, we have to source the raw material from an FDA approved vendor and bulk product that has to be on the FDA bulk drug list. Of course, with these expanded capabilities come important safety considerations. Let's talk about the risks and quality concerns unique to compounded medications. These compound drugs are FDA approved and can pose risk, especially if compounded improperly. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. 503B compounded drugs are not FDA approved and can cause risk, especially if compounded improperly. Some recent issues include contaminated peptides like GLP-1 agonists and incorrect concentrations. These risks are not just theoretical, they show up in real-world examples. One of the fastest growing and most controversial areas today is peptide compounding, often linked to wellness claims. The surge in peptide use is largely fueled by social media and wellness influencers. Peptides are small chains of amino acids, some of which are FDA approved, and many are not. So peptides are short chains of amino acids formed through condensation reactions. These peptides are essential for cell signaling and hormone functions. I want to clarify that the FDA defines peptides as amino acid chains of 40 or less, and peptides are amino acid chains of 40 proteins are amino acid chains of 41 or greater. So peptides are considered drugs and can be compounded in 503B facilities, but proteins are considered biologics and can only be manufactured in drug manufacturing plants. So not all peptides are created equal. Some have FDA approval with specific uses, while many others are unapproved and sold under looser regulatory oversight. Let's separate the two categories. GLP-1s, although FDA approved for diabetes, are being used off-label for conditions like obesity, addiction, and even cognitive disorders. Tesamorelin, approved for HIV lipodystrophy, is used off-label. Thymosin alpha-1, approved for hepatitis B and adjunct chemotherapy, is used off-label for immune support. So, unapproved peptides are flooding the wellness market with bold claims, but no human trial data. These peptides are marketed as research chemicals to avoid regulations. This slide lists non-FDA approved injectable peptides along with putative mechanism of actions and benefits. But the most important column is the last one, there is no evidence from randomized trials in humans that any of these peptides provide the benefits that are advocated. As seen on table, 2 of the peptides that have been prohibited by the World Anti-Doping Agency, such as the BCP 157 and the TB 500, they are prohibited by the anti-doping agencies. Collectively, these peptides are being sold under the rubric of research chemicals to bypass FDA review. So, for FDA compounding rules state that if unapproved substances are to be used, we need to review the FDA rules for bulk drug and to make sure that the compound is in the FDA. I'm sorry, let me start over. To determine if unapproved substances are permitted to be compounded, we need to review FDA rules for bulk drug compounding. To compound in 503A pharmacies, the ingredients or bulk substance must be in an FDA-approved drug, have the USP or NF monograph, or be on the 503A bulks list. The FDA interim categories include Category 1, may be compounded under by this facility. They're under review by FDA. Category 2, there are safety concerns. Compounding is not permitted in A or B facilities. Category 3 substances, there's insufficient data. Compounding is not permitted. 503B outsourcing facilities can compound only bulk drugs on the 503B list that has Category 1 designation. So a review of the FDA bulk drug list revealed that of the unapproved peptides that I showed you in previous slides. Let me go back on this slide. So of those drugs, they all are not permitted to be compounded in 503A or 503B facilities, since they all fall under the Category 2, the high risk of the FDA's bulks list. Thus, they are not permitted to be compounded. Exception, only the topical dosage form, not the injectable, of the GHK-Cu is included on the Category 1 list and may be compounded. So the bottom line, risks of prescribing and administering of these peptides include, for the clinicians, FDA and state medical board enforcement, malpractice liability if harm occurs, insurance exclusions for non-FDA drugs, approved drugs. Clinics, home health facilities that administer these drugs are subject to FDA enforcement and state penalties, malpractice lawsuits for adverse events, loss of licensure and reputation harm. Bottom line, these peptides are not FDA approved and are high risk to compound, prescribe, or administer. Both compounders, prescribers, and facilities, all prescribers, compounders, and facilities face regulatory and legal exposure. So to review, 503B facilities can compound drugs that are on the FDA's short list or bulk list. The FDA uses the 503B bulk drug substance list to decide which compounds can legitimately be used in outsourcing facilities. This slide shows the process for how unapproved substances get considered for compounding in the 503B outsourcing facilities. First, stakeholders, including pharmacies, healthcare providers, and industry groups, submit nominations with detailed information about the drug's identity, intended clinical use, safety profile, and rationale for compounding. The FDA then reviews these nominations to determine whether there is a true clinical need, whether the drug is unavailable as an FDA-approved product or on the shortage list, and whether safety data are sufficient. Importantly, the process incorporates public comments and practitioner feedback. If the criteria are met, substance is added to the official 503B bulk drug substance list, which is updated periodically as new nominations come forward and clinical needs evolve. There's no fixed timeline. The FDA's bulk list evaluation is lengthy and can take years per substance. Some nominations from 2014 are still unresolved, showing just how cautious and deliberate the process is. So beyond regulatory approval, there's also a booming commercial side. Substances like Net Plus show how easily science and marketing can become blurred, especially in wellness clinics. Sure, most of you have heard of Net Plus, which stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. That is a coenzyme, not a peptide, but is marketed as a peptide. It's involved in metabolism and is being injected despite lack of robust evidence. The trend hit home to a friend of mine. His wife got a hold of an invitation to see a property being listed with the perk of getting a free Net Plus shot. It said the only anti-aging supplement you will ever need. I guess the champagne and light bites weren't enough. These shots were being provided by a company called Live and referred to as a private health club. Live Clinic and similar wellness centers offer luxury branding, expensive membership, and claims of exclusive peptide therapies. If we follow the money, we can understand why these businesses are booming. Live Forever costs the customer $1,170 per infusion. To raise an important question, this raises an important question. How do these wellness marketed products compare with more rigorously studied drugs like the GLP agonists? Let's weigh their risks side by side. Peptides like TB500, CJC 1295, ipomorelin, tesamorelin, and BPC 157 raise concerns: possible tumor growth, immune disruption, hormone imbalance, and uncertain purity or long-term safety. In contrast, GLP-1 drugs, which are peptides as well, have robust trial and population data. GI side effects are common and cause about 10% to stop therapy. Other risks include obstruction, muscle loss, and potential eye complications. Just because there's no study showing harm doesn't mean these products are not safe, I'm sorry. The absence of evidence is not evidence of safety. With peptides, the lack of trials leaves us blind to real risks that could emerge years later. We should approach them with extreme caution. Just as an FYI, most drugs are studied for 2 to 5 years before approval, but true long-term risks often take 5 to 10 years of real-world use to surface. This is why caution is critical when using agents like peptide that lack large trials and post-marketing data. And while these scientific concerns are serious, the public conversation is often shaped less by data and more by celebrity influencers who are amplifying demand without scientific backing. There are notable public figures promoting peptides and Med Plus. We can't measure it, but we know the influence these individuals have on public perception, despite lacking scientific backing. So stepping back, what's the bigger picture here? The bottom line is that popularity often outpaces clinical evidence, leaving patients exposed to unnecessary risks. This is tied to mistrust in big pharma, and traditional medicine is pushing consumers toward unregulated treatments. So given these realities, how should clinicians respond? The answer lies in careful clinical use, transparent patient communication, and prudent sourcing of compounded medication. 503B facilities play a vital role during drug shortages. However, clinicians must ensure these 503B partners meet safety and regulatory standards. Ongoing oversight to protect patient care. So to wrap up, we'll bring these threads together: shortages, outsourcing facilities, safety, and communication, and discuss how healthcare providers can take action to ensure continuity of care. Use 503B medications only when commercial versions are unavailable or the substance is on the FDA's bulk list. Communicate the risks and benefits to patients clearly and use a structured checklist to guide vendor selection. I have provided for your convenience these toolkits to download for the above purposes. This first toolkit shows patient counseling for anti-aging and supplement IV therapies. This second toolkit is an informed consent for IV supplement or anti-aging therapy. And the last toolkit is evaluation checklist for outsourcing facility. And this is an appendix of my bibliography available on AAMS website.